Story 1. Ada for not going to the wedding of my dad and his affair partner? When I was 17, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. 2 years later, she passed away. During these 2 years, my dad was not around much. He was always working and going on business trips. My aunt and grandma took care of Mom. About 5 months after my mother's passing, my dad introduced me to his new girlfriend. I was pissed. I yelled at him how quickly he moved on from Mom when they decided to tell me they had been in a relationship for 3 years. My dad had been cheating on my mom while she was dying. His business trips were to meet his affair partner. I was so angry I packed my stuff and left his house. I haven't spoken to him since that day. Currently, I am 25. The only family I speak to is an aunt who helped me when I left my dad's house. A few days ago, my aunt called me, asked me how I was, and then asked me if I heard from Dad. I said, why would I hear from him again? My aunt said Dad is getting married to his affair partner, and by going to his wedding it would help us mend our relationship. I said, why would I do that? He is dead to me. There was a silence on the phone for a bit before my dad replied, asking if that was what I felt about him. I immediately cut the call when I heard his voice. I realized he was with my aunt when she made the call to me. I texted my aunt telling her I asked her not tell Dad anything about me, and she agreed back then. She texted me back saying I was an asshole for saying what I said, and my dad is crushed hearing that and that I should move on by now. I did not want to argue with someone who helped me, so I blocked her. Over the next 2 days, I got sent a wedding invitation to my mailbox. The only person in the family who knew my address was my aunt, and she gave my number to various members of the family. I am being bombarded with calls and texts from Dad, uncles, cousins, aunts saying I should give him a chance and come to the wedding. Some calling me names for saying what I said. I got a text from the affair partner saying my dad is thinking of postponing the wedding and I should just talk to him. For context, the affair partner was a friend of my mom and knew she had cancer. I said it's not my fault if he postpones the wedding. I don't want to have a relationship with Dad or her. They are trying to force it. It got quiet after that, but being told by so many people from my dad's side I am an asshole did leave me conflicted, but I am sticking to my guns. So Ada, relevant comments? Your aunt violated your trust and the rest of your family needs to be cut off too. Yeah, I have blocked 39 numbers. But what my aunt did really made me sad. I genuinely thought she cared for me. It feels like there is a catch here for them to want to reach out now and not years ago. Actually, I thought about this too, and I think you may be right because I got some texts like, it's a son's duty to take care of his father, and your future kids would want their grandfather in their life. On safety. Thank you. I am in the process of changing my number and updating contacts. As for where I live, it's a pretty secure apartment. You can only come in after me or someone buzz you in. Then you have to write down your name with security and the elevator works with a key fob only. I am hoping that I don't have to move, but keeping my options open if it escalates. Top comment. Childef Obama, NTA. Your dad cheated on your mom while she was dying, and now the whole family is upset you've calmly expressed how you feel about it by cutting your dad out and B, not attending the wedding. Your aunt also violated your trust by giving your contact information out without your consent. I'd say cut the whole family out at this point. OP has voted NTA. Mini update in comments. I sent a text all 39 number who called or texted me detailing what Dad did and blocked all of them. I don't care for their responses. Update post, December 20th, 2023, a bit less than 1 month later. Hello first. I want to thank all who commented on the first post and all who messaged me. It really helped me stick with my decision to not go to the wedding. I wanted to update earlier, but it's been pretty hectic with work. So after the many texts and calls from multiple family members, I sent a text to all the numbers detailing what Dad did and why I choose to be no contact with him. I then blocked all the numbers. I have changed my number but kept the old number in a separate phone to collect evidence if they start to harass me from random numbers. But luckily nothing happened, and I thought that was that. A week or so after that, my aunt's fiancé came to my apartment. He knows what time I get off work and was waiting for me in the parking lot. I was apprehensive, but he assured me he only wanted to talk, and according to him, the text I sent has caused a shitstorm in that family. He told me that some of the cousins who did not know what happened in the past started to question Dad and affair partner, and they started to get defensive and deny it. But someone revealed that it was true. This has caused a massive argument within the family, with some cousins pulling out of the wedding. Dad wanted to postpone the wedding so he can talk to me, but the affair partner threatened to leave him if he did that. The news of what Dad and affair partner did also reached some of their friends who were at one point friends of my mom as well. Some of them has also pulled out of the wedding, and this caused the affair partner to have a breakdown and started banning anyone who brings it up, family members included, from the wedding. According to Aunt's fiancé, she is blaming this all on me, says I did this intentionally. I laughed at that. The wedding is still somehow happening. I asked him about my aunt and how all this started, and he said all he knows is that there was a conversation of how bad the family would look if I wasn't at the wedding, and that my aunt offered to call me. He said that he disagreed, but she did it anyway. He said that he is only here because he felt I needed to know what happened. I thanked him, but said I will be going completely no contact with her, and by extension him as well. He agreed, wished me well, and left. I am not going to lie and say I am completely okay. I miss my aunt. I miss my mom, but I know what I did was the right thing. I am currently staying with my girlfriend, and she has been cheering me up by coming up with absurd ways to ruin the wedding. As a lot of you said, I should try therapy, and I'm going to take that advice. Some of the comments has made me realize that I have bottled up a lot of grief and anger. I am super nervous about it, but I also feel it'll do me good. So, once again, thank you for all your comments and advice. Ciao. Comment on girlfriend's ideas. The very first idea she came up with was, let's go to the landfill and catch some rats, then let's release them at the wedding. It got progressively worse from that. Obviously, this is just for fun, and I have no intention of going anywhere near that wedding, but reading some of the ideas here is giving me a good laugh. Update Post 2, December 22nd, 2024, 1 year later. Hello. I don't know if I'm doing this right, but I logged in today and saw a lot of messages asking me what happened and how I'm doing. I wasn't sure if I should write this or if anyone would even see it because I don't know if I am doing it right, but here it goes. For everyone asking what happened at the wedding, I don't know much. All I know is that they got married. No one from that family contacted since then, and I didn't go asking around either. I am at peace with it. As for me, things are different now. First, I want to thank everyone who reached out and asked how I've been holding up. Your kindness means more than I can put into words. I'm getting better, slowly, though the journey hasn't been easy. A lot has changed since my last update. I'm single now and have moved to a new city. My ex, who I'll call Mia, and I separated about 4 months after my last post. We celebrated 2 years together in March and talked about our future. But I was a mess. Therapy started well, but I quickly realized just how many unresolved issues I had bottled up from losing my mom. I was struggling emotionally, crying at random, worrying for some fucked up thoughts that I might somehow turn into my dad, and spiraling with fears I couldn't control. Mia had dreams of marriage and kids, and I knew I wasn't in the right place to give her the future she deserved. It would have been very selfish of me to ask her to stay until I got better. We had a long, honest talk, lots of tears, and ultimately decided to part ways. It wasn't easy, but it was the best decision for both of us. Mia and I still cared for each other deeply, and she, along with my friends, checked on me every day after the breakup. I wasn't left to face things alone, and for that, I'm so grateful. In July, I was offered the chance to move to the head office of my company in another city. After discussing it with my therapist, I decided it would be a good opportunity to change my surroundings and start fresh. In September, I made the move. My best friend used 25 days of his 30-day holiday to help me pack, move, and settle in. I can't overstate how much that meant to me. I have incredible friends. Since then, I've been taking things one day at a time. The new office has been amazing. Everyone was so welcoming, which was a big relief since I'd been anxious about starting over somewhere new. I now attend online therapy sessions twice a week and grief counseling in person here. It's been helping a lot. I'm in a much better headspace than I was before, though I still don't feel ready to date again. For now, I'm focusing on my career and on continuing to heal. Once again, Thank you to everyone who has supported me, whether through messages or just by caring enough to check in. It means the world. Ciao. Story 2. OOP gets beaten up after her sister sleeps with a married man. Original post. September 20th, 2024. I have no idea where my idiot sister is because she went on vacation with her friends. All I know is that I'm going to pull her hair out when I see her. My sister and I go to the same university. Although we are only 3 years apart, we are almost identical, and people always confuse us for twins. And today I suffered because of that resemblance we have, because as soon as I left my university to go to my car, a lady threw herself on me to start dragging me by the hair while she was yelling at me a lot of things and insults. By pure instinct, I also began to fight. Honestly, at that moment I thought that some homeless person had an attack of dementia or something. I pulled her by the hair until my friends separated her from me. The woman was crying, and behind her there were 2 more women who were with her and arguing with my friends. The woman was yelling at me that I am her husband's slut, and I didn't understand anything about what was happening, but at that moment my mind clicked because I know that my sister is dating with an older man. She doesn't tell me much about him, but she shows me the gifts he gives her. I told the woman that she was looking for my sister. Basically, the people who were with her yelled at me that I must be just as slutty as my sister. I'm not, I think, and tried to fight again. But the police approached us, and it was all too messy. Now my scalp is full of scratches. My back is scraped by the asphalt, and my hair hurts too much. And my sister doesn't answer my calls to explain what the hell she did before I tell my mother what happened. I know that if I tell my parents about this, they might even stop paying for my sister's educational because it's not the first time she does something like this. I'm going to tell them? Yes, but first I need to talk with my sister. The humiliation of having been beaten up at my university for something I didn't do is too bog. It gives me chills to think about coming back on Monday, and that the people who saw us believe that I am to blame for that when my sister was the culprit. Poor woman, I do feel empathy for her, but I didn't deserve that beating. My sister is not a good person at all, so it's easy to see her in a situation like this. At least she should have asked my name before that. Edit. Yes, we ended up at the police station, and I filed charges against her even though she apologized to me a lot once she calmed down a little bit. To be honest, her friends were worse than her in the sense of wanting to keep fighting when it was all over. But anyway, that doesn't justify that the fool hit the wrong person. For now, I'm just going to wait for my sister to come back because I want to say everything with her present so that she can't run away from our parents. It's not the first time my sister has messed with a married man. Relevant comment. No underscore pattern 5707. The fact she said you're probably a slut too? Don't feel sympathy for her, she's turned just as hateful. OOP. Her friend said that, not her. She was too overwhelmed to be honest, and her friends didn't help at all, 'cause they screamed louder than she did. Weary underscore wrongdoer underscore 7511 bruh. I would get that woman's number and call her when your sister gets back, and deliver the devil to your sister's doorstep. That's the only way she will learn that her actions have consequences. OP. I told the woman that my sister was going to be back next week. I don't know if she will look for her, but if she does, I hope she won't get confused again. Lintha, tell your parents before your sister can change the story to them. Whoa. Even if my sister changed the story, they wouldn't believe her. She has a history of being with married men. Petster, too, exactly my point. We don't know what the husband is telling his girlfriends. The wife and her thugs need to visit Mr. Wonderful. OOP, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if my sister knows. She likes to be the mistress, and it's something she says out loud, and even my parents know. It's something she enjoys. OOP on. If her sister had done this before, my sister has a history of sleeping with married men and getting my parents in trouble for it. Also for other behaviors she has. She was the mistress of a man close to me and my parents. So she's walking a tightrope because last time a strong situation happened and my parents are tired of her behavior. She's not a girl. She's a grown woman to keep getting us in trouble without having any consequences. Update post September 27th, 2024, 7 days a week later. Hi, my sister came back from her vacations a few days ago. I waited for her to come back because I didn't want her to run away from telling our parents what happened, and I wanted her to be the one to tell them everything. My sister lives with our parents. No, she's not a teenager, she's almost 30. I don't know why someone in the comments said that she was suffering from grooming when she's 28. There's even plus 40-years-old people in college, and anyways, you need to be an adult to be there. So when she arrived, I was already there. When my parents asked me what the hell happened to me, I told them to wait for my sister to come to talk about it. So they already knew that this was about her. Many people don't understand that there are people who likes to be the second and enjoy feeling that they can sleep with anyone, even with a forbidden one, and my sister is that type of person. Since she was a teenager, she flirted with her friends' boyfriends. She did it to measure her value with others. But she never flirted with any of my boyfriends, at least she has her limits. Now that she is older, she likes to sleep with married mans. For her, it is better to receive gifts and fun without the pressure of being the wife. Her words. We discussed this many times. At the end of the day, it's all in self-esteem and ego problem that my sister has. She needs to know that she can get whatever she wants. Anyway, a few days ago, the cheating man had sent a message to my sister, telling her that his wife beat him and kicked him out of the house after she found out about his affair with my sister. The woman found my sister's IG and sent her messages telling her to stay away from her family because apparently the man took their kids to some of the dates with my sister, and my sister, who is a big idiot, followed the fight with the woman insulting her. She showed me the chat and was clearly encouraging the woman to fight, calling her names, etc. And that's how I ended up getting beaten. According to my sister, she didn't believe that the woman was really going to hit her. But then I started to message her, and she basically ignored me because didn't want to get that kind of stress, and also because she knew she screwed up. Honestly, so many comments told me that my sister was not to blame for anything that I began to believe it. Until I saw the messages she sent to that woman almost begging for a beating, and I stopped feeling any kind of empathy for her. She's not a good person and never was. I was furious, but my mother was even more angry. It is not the first time that my family has been affected because of her sexual adventures. This time we did not lose money or friends, but I was physically attacked, which is worse. My sister justified herself by saying that she is single and has no responsibility for any marriage, but my mother told her that we all suffer because of her problematic behavior, and that morally she's helping to ruin the lives of many because of her ego. It all ended with my sister throwing a tantrum like always, and even blaming me for looking like her. But this time my father kicked her out of the house with her things. I found it a little sad that my own parents apologized to me for their adult daughter's behavior. In the end of the day, I feel sad to see my parents and other people because of her behavior. And about the woman, she contacted me the next day I got beaten and was really sorry. She said she would pay for any medical expenses, but I'm fine. She sounded much calmer without her friends and told me that she had never done anything like that, but she felt a very strong hatred for my sister and her ex because of how they talked about her with the children. Although she sounded really regretful, a large part of me wanted her to kick my sister's ass, but that's not going to happen. Even if that doesn't make me a good person, I would have liked to see that. I'm sorry for the boring update, but not much happened except that she didn't send me a message or anything like that. Anyways, I just pray that my parents still don't talk to her so I can see her as little as possible. Story 3. My 23F boyfriend, 25M of 1 year, is starting to gross me out, and I'm not sure if I'm overreacting. This is really awkward and embarrassing to share, but I can't think of anywhere else to get advice. I've been dating James for just over a year. We have a really good relationship, and we are good with communicating any issues that we have come to. I am very much in love with him, and we are happy. Now, maybe he is very comfortable with me now, which I know is a good thing, but I'm very frustrated, and I don't know if it's just me. This is the only issue I have with him. He's just constantly farting and burping, and it's starting to really gross me out. It feels stupid to even type that, but it's really become excessive. We are both graduated from school and work full-time. We do not live together, but he is starting to move into my apartment. This started about 5 months into our relationship, and it has gotten progressively worse. He will burp constantly and blow it into my face, to a point where I will start dry heaving, because he thinks it's funny. He does the same thing with farting, always trying to do it on me because he thinks it's hilarious. I know it's normal. I grew up with 4 brothers, but he is constantly forcing it to happen. This is not once or twice. We have spent almost every night together the past 6 months, and it will happen all night. All night. I have asked him to please stop because I find it really gross, especially the burping because he will do it in my face, and it turns my stomach, and he will apologize but still continue to do it. Or lean in for a kiss and burp in my face instead, then laugh himself to the point of tears when I act disgusted. I thought maybe at first he was just really gassy, and I should be more understanding because it's a natural bodily function. He does not do this when we are out to dinner or with friends. A few months ago, we went to a wedding together with some members of his family, and he accidentally burped really loudly like he normally does when he is alone with me, and our table went really silent and glared at him. I didn't want him to be embarrassed, so I high-fived him and said, "Good one," and the whole table started laughing and cheering, and afterwards he pulled me aside and said he was thankful I did so, as he was humiliated, but I broke the ice. I was a bit drunk and frustrated, so I asked him why he does it to me constantly, but he wouldn't do it in front of other people. His reasoning is that I am his girlfriend, and he should be able to play around with me like that. That I was being a typical girl for finding it rude, uptight, high maintenance. I didn't want to argue about it, so I told him I was none of those things, and he knew it. Cut the bullshit, we'll talk about it later when we're sober and just have a fun time at the party for now. And we did. But it never changes. I've tried to make plans to be out of the house when we see each other, because even though it seems ridiculous, it's starting to stress me out. I can't talk to any of my friends about it because they think it's so funny. He is a very sweet guy. I like spending time with him, but I feel nauseous when we are alone together because it's just so gross. He is starting to work longer shifts, so he wants to stay in a lot most nights to relax. He started doing it during sex as a joke, and our sex life has really suffered because of it. A few nights ago, he was texting me before he got off work, complaining about his day, and he seemed really stressed out, so I told him I would come over and I'll make his favorite and I'll make him forget about it. So I went over to his house and started cooking until he was off. After dinner, he leaned in to kiss me, and I turned my head because I'm so used to him burping in my face. We had an argument because he was accusing me of cheating. We haven't been having sex. I told him it was because of the burping, and he said I needed to get over it, that he was only joking and I was being such a prude, that his girlfriend shouldn't reject a kiss from him, yada yada. I told him that I've been saying this is a problem for a while. I don't think it's funny at all. I have thrown up because of it. He started to laugh as I said that. And I just kinda lost it. I don't really yell at people. I am a calm and collected person, so I scared him a bit. I told him it was disgusting, and I am getting to the point where I'm no longer attracted to him, that I've been trying so hard to be understanding, but it's a two-way street. It wasn't to me about something being gross or funny anymore. It was about respect. He kinda got defensive, trying to throw in how I was overreacting, being ridiculous, but I shut it down and he apologized because he apparently didn't know I felt so strongly about it. He would try not to do it anymore at all. I don't care that it happens. I only care that he forces it, etc. Now, having talked it out, for the next couple of hours he actually didn't try to burp in my face or fart on me. I was so happy I could enjoy cuddling my boyfriend without trying not to vomit, so I started unzipping his pants to make him forget about his bad day. You already know where this is going. It's humiliating, but I'm going to type it out anyway. As I was trying to blow him, he pushed my head down so I couldn't get away and tensed up and started farting loudly while laughing. I was so frustrated I started crying immediately. I think he realized he did something wrong because he let go of my head and tried to hold me, and he kept saying, "I'm sorry. I thought you meant to do it less. I thought it was going to be funny, to break the tension from before." But I got up and left his apartment. That was 2 days ago. He has tried calling me, texting me constantly. I have not responded. His messages range from being very apologetic to very angry, back and forth. I don't know what to do, and I feel like this relationship is over, but I still love him. I feel also really gross and violated in a way. Our mutual friends have been texting me as well, asking if everything is okay, and I've tried explaining the situation to my best friend, but he found it hilarious. So I'm afraid to explain it to anyone else. This is just so stupid. I literally feel like I'm crazy. Maybe I am uptight, etc. I also have a lot of his stuff over here that belongs to him, and I'm worried he will come back to get it, and I'll have to face him. What should I do? Am I just overreacting? Dodger. My boyfriend is constantly burping in my face and farting on me, even though I don't find it funny. Am I overreacting? Relevant comment? Deleted. Fuck that. I grew up with 3 brothers, and I wouldn't put up with this from a boyfriend either. Tell him, when you do this, it reminds me of growing up with my brothers, and you're starting to be about as attractive as a brother, as in, I am not attracted to you because of this. Stop it immediately, or I'm going to stop this relationship immediately. You are seriously crossing my boundaries, and this is not okay anymore. If he can't pick up on the fact that you are serious after that talk, dump him because he's about as mature as a 2-year-old. OP. That's how I feel. He's like one of my brothers. I tried telling him this, but I don't think he was taking me seriously. Thank you for your reply, because I suppose it really is a boundary, and that's why I've been so upset about it and kind of invalidating my own feelings and believing I'm being kind of ridiculous. Bloopity-bull. Good God, just good God. After you literally screamed at him about it like a few hours ago, he thought it would be funny? Can you even picture being naked with him without gagging? Also, the whole thing is kind of hilarious in the I can't believe this is how a real grown-ass person behaved. You've got to be making this up kind of way. OP. To be fair, he did text saying he thought it was only the burping thing that I didn't like that much, because it was what caused the fight, and that's why he thought it would be funny. But I haven't replied because I know I mentioned it as well. Dream Queen, 9103. Why would anyone think burping in her face makes her mad? I know, I'll fart in her face. That'll charm her pants off. Update September 21st, 2015, next day. Thank you for everyone who replied to my original post, and also those who PM'd me. I wasn't really expecting as much support, but I'm glad that I'm not alone. Last night I was pretty miserable and just felt confused and sick about the whole thing. It really helped me deal with what I was feeling and rationalize, reading what everyone had written. I just want to clear a few things up before I get into how this has climaxed for me. My boyfriend did not start out doing this constantly. I remember the first time he did it, I was confused and told him right away I did not like it calmly, and he seemed to understand. I have never laughed when he did it purposely. I know the difference between an accident and what he does. A lot of the replies help me examine my relationship as a whole. We have had other problems that seem to fit the same pattern. He had the same behavior with driving very fast for fun, and he had the same issue with playfully pinching and tickling, but he was doing it so hard it would leave bruises. I always expressed that I did not like this, but he was insistent that I was overreacting. When I showed him he was actually hurting me, he stopped completely and never did it since. I didn't think it was an important thing to bring up. I think it's a bit harsh to call him abusive, because he respected that boundary. I know a lot of people were suggesting that I do the same thing to him or retaliate in the same way, and it might sound nice to entertain that fantasy, but I'm really not like that. I will never let someone else's actions define who I am as a person. I know I will never try to intentionally hurt someone, and that makes me have faith in myself. A few of you made me really cry because before I wrote my post, I was completely unsupported, and I felt alone and, well, really ridiculous and dumb. So thank you very much for taking the time to help me even though I'm a stranger and none of you owe me anything, let alone your time and kindness. Thank you. Now on to today. I have not replied to any of James's messages. I blocked him on all devices. I feel like I basically told him was over and he knew that. I have messaged a few of our mutual friends back saying that I would really appreciate it if they would just drop it. That everything is okay with me, but the relationship is over between us. A post said I didn't have to explain the situation completely, so I did that. They seemed very understanding, except one replied saying, "Over a one-time incident? Get real LOL, but WE so long as you're happy." It didn't really bother me because I know the truth. It was hurtful that James may have lied, but I'd rather surround myself with people who value honesty. I also invited my best friend over and asked him if he could help me box all of James's belongings, to which he agreed right away. He kept asking me what happened and if I was okay, so I showed him this post and he was disgusted. He apologized for laughing when I had tried to tell him earlier, because he said he didn't know it was so serious. He offered to take James's belongings to him, but I made him promise to not be hostile or I'd ask someone else. He agreed. We spent a lot of the day in my apartment when the front door opened. It's hard for me to articulate myself, but I'll try to type it exactly as it happened. We both heard it and stopped talking immediately. It was James. I'm not going to lie, I was immediately frightened, and maybe I could have handled it better, but I kind of just stood there. I just didn't expect to see him. He has never showed up at my home or work without a warning. My friend asked him what the fuck he thinks he was doing here. James kept staring at me and ignored him, saying, "I thought you were dead or something. Why have you been ignoring me?" My friend stepped in front of him and handed him one of the boxes and told him he could take his stuff and leave, that it was over and I didn't want to talk to him. James laughed and made a move towards me and said I needed to talk to him alone, but my friend moved in front of him and told him that he shouldn't be in my house uninvited, that it was illegal, and he was going to call the police. Then James got really mad and twisted his face all weird, and I can't explain it, but he started yelling and it was like he wasn't the same person at all. He called me a slut and a cunt and said that I was some ridiculous princess, and he just kept going, my friend telling him, "That's nice, now you need to leave or I'm going to make you." And then James threw down his box and punched my friend in the face. I don't remember exactly, but my friend fell back and James came up to me and he grabbed me and started shaking me, saying I was stupid for throwing this all away and that I was probably sleeping with my friend. I was very afraid and I couldn't believe this was happening. My friend got up and grabbed him by the back of his shirt and threw him off me and shoved him out of my apartment. James ran away down the hall, kicking people's doors and screaming. My neighbor had come out of his apartment and asked what was going on, and I told him to call the ambulance because my friend was bleeding from his nose. I was so embarrassed. At the hospital, I kept embarrassing myself, crying and apologizing to my friend while we were in the waiting room. His nose is broken. He keeps making Owen Wilson jokes impressions, but he is okay. Now I am at my friend's house because I am afraid to go home. He said I can stay with him for as long as I need to. I feel really awful that my friend got his nose broken because I was a bad judge of character. I also feel really guilty that I got so scared I just kind of stood there and let my friend get hurt. My friend is taking me to the police station to file a report, but I just want this whole thing to be over. But he is being insistent because I need to do this to ensure my safety. This is my first relationship, and I don't even know if this person was real. I didn't think this was even possible to happen. I don't understand what I missed, and I feel like I'm vibrating inside because of how frightened I am. I want to go home to my apartment, but I'm afraid he will come back. The way my head is does not make any sense. I feel ashamed even writing all of this because it was from something so small and juvenile, so I don't know, I'm just handling it weird or my head at blowing it completely out of proportion. How do I proceed now, after I file a report? Has anyone been in this same situation before? How do people hide that kind of anger for over a year? Why did this happen? I'm sorry for the questions, but I just can't make sense of my own thoughts right now. Dolly Dodger. My ex-boyfriend came to confront me and hurt my friend. How do I make him stay away and get back to normal? Relevant comment. Downvoted commenter. I have not replied to any of James's messages. I blocked him on all devices. I feel like I basically told him was over and he knew that. I have messaged a few of our mutual friends back saying that I would really appreciate it if they would just drop it, that everything is okay with me but the relationship is over between us. James kept staring at me and ignored him, saying, "I thought you were dead or something. Why have you been ignoring me?" I'm sorry, but this is unclear. You actually did tell James that the relationship was over, right? While his reaction was obviously negative, I can kind of see why it would be overblown if he finds out that he has been dumped by having his girl's friend hand him a box of his crap and tell him to leave his girl's house. O.P. I did not explicitly say it was over, but when I had yelled at him before the blowjob incident, I told him I could not handle him doing it to me anymore, etc. But in his texts, between apologies, he said things like, "Have a nice life, you're not going to be hearing from me again," and that he was done with the whole thing, and me being ridiculous. I can see what you mean, and that's what I'm worried about. From his point of view, maybe he didn't really mean to act like that at all. Final comment from OOP. This was my first relationship, so I wasn't really sure. I guess I didn't have anything to compare it to be like, this isn't quite right. And in that way, I suppose I couldn't trust how I felt about it. But he has had quite a few other girlfriends. I guess my mistake was telling myself that he obviously knows better than I do because he has dated prior to me. I don't know why, but it seems still alien for me to think of this as abuse, especially since he can't defend himself, but I know what you are saying. Thank you for your reply. I will take the things you said to heart and really take this time to look into myself so I can have healthier relationships and be a healthier person. New update 9 years later. OP saw and responded to the previous Buru, here November 18th, 2024. Things are great! Thank you for your kind words. It's been a trip rereading a post I made a decade ago. A friend of mine actually sent this to me because it reminded them of an anecdote I had shared with them a few years ago, and behold, it was my own words. Rereading it has been a bit harrowing, to say the least, but the mindset I had back then was completely different. I was a very meek person, and my brothers treated me the same way in my own family dynamic. Obviously not with the sexual stuff, but being able to do things that bothered me or hurt me, and I wasn't allowed to complain, so it was normalized for me. To answer your question, no, my best friend and I did not end up together. We're still very close, but our relationship has always been platonic. I actually helped him with an ex a few years after this, though it consisted of less bodily functions. My gross ex? After this, and despite pressing charges, he did try to harass me for a while, almost a year if I recall correctly. I think he just liked the feeling of making me miserable and couldn't let go or comprehend how I was so thoroughly under his finger but ended up pushing back. So it was hard for him to relinquish that. Not of me as a person, but of that feeling of control. But for the first time in my life, instead of shutting down, I was actually angry, mostly on behalf of my best friend for being hurt. I knew my friend did not deserve to be attacked like that. I did end up focusing on myself, and I went to therapy, for both the relationship and other factors, family, etc., so I could be a healthier person, as I said in my last comment on that post. I didn't date anyone for a while after, and focused mostly on building friendships and self-reflection. There were a lot of red flags I missed besides the other ones I mentioned in this post, like how he aggressively pursued me, sexual things despite my inexperience, etc. But hindsight is indeed 20/20ths. Story 4. Aida for demanding back a loaned antique that wasn't supposed to be a gift? I, 45F, have a dear friend Lauren, 43F. We grew up together and she was a bridesmaid at my wedding 20 years ago. Several years ago, my husband and I had a great opportunity to work and live abroad for a few years. It required that we sell our house and most of our belongings and put the rest in storage. One item I did not want to let go was a beautiful antique crystal lamp that belonged to my late grandmother. It holds many important memories for me. Unfortunately, our storage unit was so full that I was afraid I wouldn't be able to squeeze it in without giving up something else we wanted to keep. I mentioned this dilemma to Lauren, and she jumped in with an offer to hold on to the lamp for me. She said it would look gorgeous in her living room, and she would be proud to display it there until we got back. I was thrilled. Well, our time abroad recently came to an end, and we are now back in the U.S. We bought a new house, collected our belongings from storage, and are in the process of furnishing it. I asked Lauren for my lamp back, and she got all pissy and said that she understood it was a gift. I reminded her that it was a family heirloom that she promised to keep for me until I got back, but she insists that's not how she remembers it. She said she adores this lamp. It's the focal point of her living room decor, and that if I demanded it back, our friendship would be over. I'm heartbroken. She is one of my oldest friends, and while she can be quirky, she's never done anything like this before. I don't want to lose her friendship, but I also don't want to lose a treasured family heirloom. It's also worth quite a bit of money. It appraised at over $2,000. To be clear, I am 100% confident that I did not tell her it was hers to keep. Given our lifelong friendship, I thought it was safe to leave it with her. I can't even fathom why she thinks I gave it to her. We are not rich. I would never give a gift that expensive to anyone. To make matters worse, I told my sister about all of this and she hit the roof. That lamp holds memories for her too, and she was livid that it might be lost to our family. I've always intended to pass it down to my own daughter. So last week I told Lauren I want the lamp. She burst into tears and accused me of putting material things over friendship, but said she'd give it back, although she keeps coming up with excuses why she's been too busy to either bring it over or let me come by to get it. Now I'm wondering if she's right. Is a lifelong friendship more important than a lamp? Ada for demanding it back, hurting Lauren's feelings and making her think I don't care about our friendship? Some of OOP's comments. Top commenter. She's the one who issued the ultimatum. She's the one who would rather have her aesthetic house with the lamp than you as a friend. She's the one who convinced herself you'd let her keep a beloved antique, despite the fact that she literally only has possession of it because you wanted to keep it. Her own logic story is full of holes, and she knows it. That's why she's going nuclear. When was the last time you were at her house? Have you seen the lamp recently? Are you sure it hasn't been broken or sold? Or is she just really so deluded that she built her room around an item she doesn't own and has been showing of her antique for years? OOP. Yeah, I have to agree with you. Thanks for your comment. Oh, and yes, I did swing by her house to say hello a few weeks ago when we first got back and the lamp was there. I didn't ask for it back at that time because we were still in the process of buying a house, so I had no place to put it. But I do now, and damn it, I want it back. To a now deleted comment. I'm hoping she's just behaving like this because she really did remember it wrong. It has been a few years after all, and just hasn't come to terms yet with losing something that she clearly has fallen in love with. I will try to reason with her and see what happens. But all of the responses in here are solidifying my initial belief that I am not in the wrong by demanding it back. Commenter. Having read most of the responses so far, I think if it was me, I'd send a letter, email, whatever that puts this good advice together and points out the flawed logic that she is using, and then give her a few days to think, reconsider. It seems like this behavior is really out of the blue from what you described, OP, so maybe something's gone wrong. I mean, who knows? It could be that she was always like this and you didn't see it. Friendship sometimes be like that. But there might be something else going on. If a little time and a clear-headed look at the whole situation doesn't elicit a reversal on her part, then I agree with all the posts that suggest pursuing the lamp through whatever means you need to, because in the end, that is the final part of your boundary, and she has made the decision to sacrifice a friendship. What a shame. I hope she sees the light. I'm sorry, it was just right there, and I'll see myself out. OP. I wish I had time to respond to all of these comments, but right now I'm just responding to the few that really strike home. So, yeah, you've touched on multiple important points. First, this is definitely not normal behavior, but I mentioned she's a bit quirky. What I meant by that is that she can be a bit OCD. So, maybe what's going on here is that for some reason she has become kinda obsessed with this lamp and has convinced herself she's in the right. I tend to be a compassionate person, and it sounds like you are too in recognizing that maybe something's gone wrong in her life leading to this bizarre behavior. Given that I've been overseas for the past few years, it's possible there's something going on that I don't know about, although we have kept in touch from afar, and she hasn't mentioned any major issues. But your point is worth exploring. I've read all of the responses so far, and they have confirmed for me that I'm not in the wrong by asking for it back. I still would like to think there's a chance of saving the relationship. I like your idea of trying to have a rational conversation with her, maybe in writing, and trying to dig into what might be going on in her life, causing her to not see the logic in my right to ask for it back. Best case scenario. She senses my compassion and care for her in asking what might be going wrong in her life, rethinks her position in keeping the lamp, and agrees to give it back and talk things out with me. Thanks again for your feedback, and your witty last line gave me a giggle. Commenter. OP, something that has not been touched on that will be a likely default on Lauren's behalf, is that she will do everything to play the victim in your social circles and paint you as a pariah since she's already threatening you with throwing away a 20-year friendship over a lamp. In today's social media-obsessed world, she'll come out as the one who's been wronged. OP. You make a very good point. The good news is that she's not really much into social media. We do have a lot of friends in common, but she's generally not the type to go around airing dirty laundry. I'm still hoping she'll rethink her position and we can put this behind us, as I'm willing to forgive and forget. But either way, I'm getting that lamp back. On trusting Lauren in the first place. As you pointed out, I didn't just give it to someone to use and potentially destroy. I trusted it with someone I've known my whole life, who has never done anything to harm me, as I felt better about it being with her than collecting dust in storage. And I figured my grandma would appreciate knowing it was being shown and loved while I was away. I posted this question to find out if I'm the asshole for asterisk wanting it back asterisk, not for trusting her with it in the first place. If trusting a lifelong friend means I suck, well then I don't want to not suck. Obviously it turns out my trust was misplaced, but I don't blame myself for trusting her in the first place. OP is voted NTA. Update in comments. December 21st, 2024, next day. I got the lamp back! I want to thank everyone who commented for all of the support. It helped me to see how I was allowing Lauren to manipulate me into believing that somehow I was in the wrong for wanting my lamp back. Early this morning I drove over to her house. It's Saturday, so I figured she'd be home, and she was. I could tell as soon as she opened the door that she knew why I was there. And yes, the lamp was there. Someone commented a suggestion that I bring her a bottle of wine to thank her for caring for my lamp, and I thought that was a great idea. Lauren does love wine. I brought her a very nice bottle that we brought back from abroad. I said I'm sorry things have gotten tense between us, and I do value her friendship very much. I handed her the bottle and told her this is a gift, to say thank you for taking such good care of my grandma's lamp. I said, I'm sorry if there was any confusion about my intention in letting you hold on to it, but I think you know now how important that heirloom is to me and my family, and I need to take it back. She kept saying she believed it was a gift, but I stood my ground and said she is remembering it wrong. I reminded her that this was a family heirloom. I said, think about this. To you it's a pretty lamp. To me it's a reminder of my departed grandma, and all the wonderful time spent in her house with this lamp, lighting up her living room. How could she argue with that? I didn't get angry. I remained calm but firm. In the end, she just threw her hands up and said, fine, and I unplugged the lamp, gave her a hug, and left. She was clearly upset, but I didn't stick around to see how she reacted. I don't know what's going to happen with our friendship. I will say that I feel differently about her now, but if she is willing to move past this, so am I. Lifelong friends are hard to come by, and one dispute shouldn't end it. If we do move forward, I will know not to trust her with something like this again. But it's entirely possible I will never hear from her again. I don't plan on reaching out anytime soon. There were too many comments for me to address them all, but I want to answer a few questions. First, I wasn't going to get the police involved. This is a civil matter, not criminal. I know I had the option of small claims court, and I guess I would have if necessary. I have plenty of photos of that lamp in my other house, and even in my grandma's living room. My sister lives in another state, so bringing her wasn't an option. My husband would have come with me, but I wanted to try to work this out between us. Yes, I should have gotten something in writing before we left, but it was a very chaotic time, and I just didn't think about anything but being grateful I didn't have to figure out how to squeeze the lamp into storage. Lesson learned. I don't really care what she says to our mutual friends. If anyone asks me about it, I'll tell them the truth. Relevant comments? Commenter, well done on getting your lamp back and remaining calm and kind. It's a difficult balance in situations like that. It's also so sad that you have to think to get something confirmed in writing when trusting a lifelong friend. I think you can walk away with your head high and conscience intact. It's now down to Lauren to decide what sort of person she is. P. Thank you. And you bring up an important point. I did take some heat in the comments for not getting anything in writing. And while I admit I honestly didn't even think about this at the time, We were getting ready to move overseas. Things were crazy. I think that even if I had, I might not have done it. It would have made for an awkward conversation, implying that I don't trust someone whom I've known for my entire life. She's always been a bit sensitive, and I'm pretty sure that discussion would have been uncomfortable at best. Kinda like asking the fiancé for a prenup. It shows that you think there's a chance something will go wrong, and to an emotionally sensitive person, that may not go over very well. But like the divorced person who learns a hard lesson about not getting a prenup, I know better now. Fire. It doesn't need to be a formal letter, even just a text saying, "Thanks again for looking after my lamp whilst we're away. It's such a sentimental heirloom, but know it's in great hands and really appreciate you taking the time to watch over it for me. When we get back and move into our new place, we'll have to have a housewarming. You can bring the lamp instead of a bottle. O.P." Yep, I wish I'd done that. My only excuse is that it was such a chaotic time. I made some other mistakes during that time too, bringing stuff with us overseas that we shouldn't have brought, not bringing stuff that we should have, not completely understanding the culture we were moving into, etc. Fortunately, none of those mistakes were fatal. LOL. And hey, I got my lamp back, so this one wasn't either. Dull_income 1,205. Perfection. So glad my suggestion of wine eased the transaction. Merry Christmas. O.P. So you're the person who suggested the wine. I was trying to find your comment again. That really was a great idea, and I do believe it made a difference. Thanks again. Story 5. My 28M husband, 31M of 6 years, takes ridiculous risks while doing his extreme sports. Now that we have kids, 2F, 1M, I want it to stop. How do I do this? So this is coming to a head because at the moment we are on a ski vacation with my family. For the most part, we are having a great time and have my parents, brother and kids, and my aunt and cousins, and their respective kids. It's a great time. My husband lives for this stuff, but while we are being more social, he's in the lift line at 9 and he comes off the mountain at 4:30 like clockwork. He doesn't take hot chocolate breaks with us, and he doesn't eat lunch with us. He will eat at the family dinner, but instead of staying up telling stories and drinking wine, he goes to bed and listens to music until he falls asleep. So strike one. I'm annoyed with him being so antisocial, but the annoyance is compounded by the fact that he is doing behaviors that we have fought over many times. Him not realizing he's not 19 anymore, and now has kids and responsibilities. I found out last night that he made friends with a group of local kids who have been showing him the back hills, where there are rocks and cliffs to jump off of. But this is off-ski area, so he has to ski down to the road and actually hitchhike back to the ski resort. I'm livid, literally seeing red, wanting to do terrible things to him angry. This is bad enough, but we have this same fight every time we go anywhere, whether it's surfing, mountain biking, rock climbing, you name it. He's always pushing it. We have the same fight almost every weeknight because he goes to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and comes back with his knees tweaked or face all scratched up. I'm sick of this. In fairness to my husband, he's a great dad, and we had 2 kids much closer in age than we'd planned. And he's very supportive and good at giving me breaks. But that makes his irresponsible behavior even more stark because I can't raise 2 small kids on my own if he kills himself flying down a mountain with no ski patrol, or surfing waves too big, etc. And to add insult to injury, he says he can't wait to take our kids along on all his adventures as soon as they are old enough. Like I said, I can't raise 2 small kids by myself. How do I get him to stop the nonsense and take his responsibilities seriously? TLD daughter. Husband is taking ridiculous risks while doing his extreme sports. I want him to stop because, among other reasons, we have small kids. Edit. This blew up. Sorry I wasn't around to participate. An ironic twist. I skied all day with my cousin and had such fun my husband actually beat me in. To address the most common concerns. We have a huge life insurance policy through my husband's work. As far as I know, it covers everything, but I need to look into. It's part of his job, so we actually pay very small premiums on it. I chose to be a Sam. I do miss my career sometimes, as evidenced by my comment, but I love spending time with both kids. My husband works very hard to give me this. Our first was planned, and we'd hoped for several years between kids, but things happen and it's a little more stressful than I'd hoped, but we love both kids. My dad adores my husband, and he's an introvert like Gregory, so he's to bed while the rest of us are talking late into the night. My dad loves hearing all about Greg's adventures, so he's happy paying. Which sucks for me because my own dad is not an advocate for my desires. Thank you for all the advice. I have some reading to do. Hopefully I can update when we get home. Update, I, 28F, was very angry with my husband, 31M, for taking extreme risks during skiing while we have 2 small kids. After the responses to that post and some more vacation events, I realized that I was unreasonable. I've apologized to him but reiterated my fears. February 21st, 2016. Here is the original. So that post totally blew up. I posted it at like 7:30 Monday morning while the family was getting ready, got 0 responses, and went out skiing. By lunchtime it had like 200 responses, and by the time I got in that evening it was over 500. By far my biggest Reddit post ever, mostly DIY and craft stuff. I spent Monday night carefully reading every single response because there was a ton of value in all of them. One post stood out, and I apologized to whoever made it that I can't mention them by name. But essentially they said it appeared I was conflating 2 issues, my husband taking risks and him not being social on vacation. I guess in the interest of brevity I had left out some details. I found out about Gregory's backcountry skiing because he is essentially my dad's hero, and my dad sat there like a starstruck schoolgirl while Gregory regaled him with tales of backcountry skiing with local teenagers and jumping off 20-foot cliffs into powder. I was deeply annoyed with Gregory because it was the first time he was social with anyone. We were on day 3 of the vacation, and he had literally gone to bed at 8 every night to get up and ski. I was jealous of how much fun my brother's wife and my 2 cousins' spouses were so engaged with the family. So I conflated my annoyance with both him and my dad, frankly, for being antisocial and taking risks. The post the other day really helped me realize that, and I made it a point to be nicer to him. It also helped that Monday night, my cousin's husband got rip-roaring drunk in our condo and started cursing up Blue Streak. This with kids aged 1, 10 all staying in the same relatively small space. He and my cousin had an extremely embarrassing and public fight that started inside and ended outside within earshot of the entire base area village. It made me realize that no matter how annoyed I can get with Gregory and his desire to not be social on most occasions, he will never, ever put me through that which helped me gain some perspective. The yesterday afternoon, as my cousin and her husband were getting ready to leave, he was acting like a jackass while driving. He was probably wickedly hungover, in the parking lot, and ended up sliding right into a snowbank, giving their new Lexus some significant body damage. He got out cursing and spewing in the parking lot, all while basically standing like a helpless baby, screaming at my cousin that she needed to call someone, goddammit. Gregory and my dad very calmly dug his car out of the snow, dug up some gravel for traction, and then backed his car out. It took maybe 10 minutes. It made me realize that quite possibly all of Gregory's experience in remote places while biking, skiing, bow hunting, etc., have taught him to be relaxed and knowledgeable in a high-pressure situation, and he just did what had to be done. I felt very lucky and felt very sorry for cousin. I was watching this very hungover, overweight man cry in the middle of a parking lot because that's a $6,500 grill on that car, while my very attractive and in-shape husband who doesn't drink was calmly digging the entire car out. Yesterday morning, I asked him if he would be willing to ski with me that day, and he said absolutely, that he was hoping we would get at least one day together. So another strike on me for not communicating with him and assuming that he would see me as something of a burden to his ski day. So I didn't even want to ask if he'd ski with me. We actually had a great time together, and he's so experienced, he actually taught me more than I probably ever would have gotten from a paid lesson. While we were on the chairlift that day, I very calmly brought up my concerns about the backcountry skiing, leaving me to watch the kids. On other vacations, as I've said, my mom and aunt are on kid duty this trip, though me and my brother's wife are watching the kids today while my mom and aunt ski, while he goes and does activities. He assured me that the backcountry skiing at this area was very safe, but that in the future he would get all the equipment necessary, float coat, peeps, in order to reduce the risk, and he said that he was sorry for leaving me to go surfing on our last trip, and that he would try very hard to communicate beforehand what his desires for any particular trip will be in advance, and have it be a dialectic conversation with give and take versus him just assuming he can bolt off whenever the waves are big. I also said I was sorry for being so cold to him since the trip started, but that I would appreciate him trying to hang out for a little longer each night. He said that it's thinly veiled secret that he can't stand my cousin's husband because he is constantly trying to one-upping and talking down to Gregory for a myriad of reasons. They work in a similar field, so I guess there's something of a rivalry, and now that he's gone, he will be more comfortable. So last night, Gregory cooked steaks for everyone and stayed up a little later, 8:30 is later, right? And chatted and seemed to have a good time. So today, since this was a planned day off for me to watch the kids, we agreed that he could meet his new friends really early so they could do some in-area hiking before the lift started, and that he could stay out as late as he wanted if the snow was good. So basically all is good. I love my husband more than words can possibly say, and I'm glad we had this time together, because I think while we had relatively minor problems in the grand scheme of things, we are coming out healthier and happier for it. If I hadn't made my post Monday morning, I very well have made the rest of the vacation miserable for both of us. Thank you very much for all the help. TL.Dodder. Follow up to my post from Monday about me being angry at my husband for taking extreme risks while doing his sports, but was probably more about me being annoyed with him not being social and me not communicating with him. Story 6. Wibta for ghosting my ex-wife. I know you're going to say it's fake, and that you saw this Hallmark Christmas movie, and I'm right there with you. Honestly, I wouldn't believe it either if it didn't happen to me. So, if you can't believe it, then just pretend and give me advice anyway, like I'm a real person. Because I am. I, 32M, met Sarah, 30F, in grade school in our small town. She was my first everything, girlfriend, love, and eventually wife. We both went to college together, and after I graduated, we got married when I was 23, and she was 21. Sarah was still finishing her degree, and I worked hard to support both of us while she completed her studies. When she got her first job, I was so proud of her. It felt like all our sacrifices and hard work were paying off, and I thought we were on our way to building a life together. For 2 years, everything seemed fine, or at least I thought so. Then one day I came home from work and found her packing a bag. She sat me down and told me she had been having an affair with a coworker. I was completely oblivious. She was crying and apologetic. She said she loved me, but she was in love with the coworker, and they had this chemistry and a deep connection, and that she never felt this level of excitement and attachment with me. At the same time, she seemed to be really apologetic and acted very guilty. She moved in with the coworker that night. Sarah made the divorce as quick and easy as possible. She didn't contest anything and took almost nothing. In the state we lived in, you can get a divorce in 10 days if there aren't any children involved. We filed the papers ourselves, no lawyer, couldn't afford one. After it was final, she asked if we could be friends, and I'm ashamed to say that I just broke down and sobbed like a baby in front of her, said nothing, and left. At that point, she was 23 and I was 25. A couple of years later, in early 2020, while riding out COVID in my hometown, my mom casually mentioned that Sarah had married the guy she left me for. Apparently, Sarah's parents and mine had talked about it since they're longtime friends, and Sarah's parents were hesitant about the marriage but supported her. Hearing that stung. I had done everything I could to move on, but knowing she had married her affair partner felt like reopening the wound. I told my mom as kindly as I could that I didn't want to hear about Sarah anymore. She understood and never brought her up again. I was broken and depressed at first, but I went to see a therapist and got on some meds. I got some certifications, and through a friend from college, I got an interview with a global consulting company. My friend was married and couldn't do the amount of travel that the job required, so he pushed hard for me for the position. I started traveling around the world and pretty much worked all the time at first. On any given day, I was either in the gym working or having a virtual therapy session at 3 a.m. I was a dull boy. I got into incredible shape thanks to lifting and running. Eventually, I got a long-term project in Romania and was able to meet and have relationships with women. Fast forward a few years. Recently, I had a few weeks of vacation saved up, and I wanted to spend Christmas in Reykjavik, Iceland. I went to my parents' place in my hometown for Thanksgiving with my sister and brother. Last Thursday, I was at the local independent drugstore in what passes for downtown in my hometown. It has a lunch counter like an old-fashioned drugstore. I got a cup of coffee and sat down at the counter drinking it when Sarah sat down beside me and said hello. She was super nervous and red in the face. I was shocked and just sat there looking at her. I was exploding inside, but I kept my cool outwardly. She was still beautiful. She was actually very fit herself and had lost her baby face and became maybe even more beautiful. She started off by apologizing for the way she ended our marriage. I told her she already apologized like 100 times when she dumped me, but she insisted that she was young and stupid, and over time she realized how much she had hurt me. She wanted to meet me later in a less crowded spot with fewer spies. Small town, remember? I shook my head no, and told her frankly that I didn't see what I could possibly get out of meeting with her again. That kind of took the wind out of her sails, and she kind of deflated. She admitted that it was probably more for her than for me. She said that I'd get closure not only for how she ended things, but for the kind of person she was back then. She wanted to tell me about how she'd changed, and what she'd learned about herself, and what real love is. She wanted me to see that the person she became is someone that I could respect and maybe be friends with again. I wanted to get the hell out of there, so I just told her I'd think about it. She gave me her number and I went home. Apparently my mother and sister had already heard about it from Sarah's mom, so I'm a big dumb victim of some kind of big dumb Hallmark Christmas movie hit job. My sister, 29F, and mom, 55F, told me that they kept up with Sarah since our divorce, and they know that she's changed, and that I should hear her out. My dad, 56M, just shook his head and walked off. My brother, 22M, thought all of this was hilarious. I asked if he wanted to chime in, and he just shrugged his shoulders and said that since Sarah and I knew each other from when we were kids, I should at least hear her out just to keep the peace between our families, since we live in a small town. Personally, I do think that her family would feel insulted if I didn't at least talk with her. I know for a fact that she's living with her parents now, so it seems like her life completely shot the bed. I'd kind of like to get the gory details as maybe a form of schadenfreude, but it's all behind me now, and I think it would all just make me sad. I guess I'm a better man now that I'm more mature, more wealthy, and fitter than I was when I was with her, but I'm still the same guy that she didn't have chemistry or connection with back in the day. So I think whatever comes out of her mouth would be bullshit. I think she's probably a dragon cosplaying as a princess and wants me to be her white knight. F at $K that. My mom and sister are pushing hard for me to meet her, and my mom says that she's afraid if I don't at least hear Sarah out, that Sarah's mom will resent her and make her social life more complicated. Let me make it clear that I have no intention of getting back with Sarah. Sarah is very beautiful, but so are the women of Romania, Iceland, and elsewhere, and they have the added bonus of not breaking my heart. I'm interested in going just to hear about what happened to her after she dumped me, and to smooth things over for my folks. What do you think, Reddit? Should I go? I kinda want to. Talk me down off the ledge. Wibtaw if I ghosted my ex-wife. Ada has no consensus bot. OP was NTA. Top comments. Commenter 1. Sounds like you don't need the closure, so why pick at healed wounds? Tell your mom and sister if they want to hear Sarah talk so much. They can go in your place, but to leave you out of it. Commenter 2. Don't go. You don't have to ghost her. You can tell her you aren't interested in rehashing the past and you wish her well. NTA. Commenter 3. YW and Beta. Tell your mom that you are not responsible for Sarah's feelings nor her mother's. You've moved on as best you can after the horrific way Sarah treated you. You have no reason to listen to whatever shitty excuses she is going to give you in order to resolve herself of guilt, and frankly, your mom should be ashamed of herself. Why are Sarah's feelings, what she wants, more important than yours? Commenter 4. Nah. You are a better man and just leave the past in the past. As to the social life being difficult for your mom, well, she just needs to rise above it, too. It's not your problem, and you have your own life to live. NTA. Update, December 21st, 2024, 11 days later. Hi, I'm apparently known as the Hallmark Christmas movie guy. I'm currently writing this from Reykjavik, Iceland. I have some friends I met while doing some consulting work here. This time of year, the days are very short and the northern lights are visible. Unfortunately, it's supposed to be cloudy and rainy for the foreseeable future here, so I'm out of luck with the aurora borealis. We're doing a Christmas pub crawl, among other things. Reykjavik is very single-friendly during the holidays. TLDR. I met up with Sarah to shut up our families. We talked, I left, done. After I posted for the next couple of days, my mom and sister kept bugging me about it until I caved. I know. I made it clear to them that I had no intention of getting back together with Sarah and that I was pissed that they thought there was a chance I'd get back together with someone who stabbed their son and brother in the heart. Finally, I told Sarah I'd meet her at the playground at our old school. It's a small town, so there's only one school that's K-12. When we met, I told her up front that I'm just there as a favor to our parents and my sister. She acknowledged that, and we engaged in a little small talk. She told me that she had started following me on social media. I've since made it friends and family only. And she saw how I'd been all over the world and even commented on the girlfriend I had in Romania. I told Sarah her name was Monica, and we had a great time together. She then started in with the juicy stuff I wanted to hear. Unfortunately, it wasn't very juicy. Just regular, boring relationship crap. She started living with the guy, and it quickly became apparent that once she was with him, the relationship went from an exciting affair to a regular humdrum relationship. She said she knew the forbidden sparks were gone the first time she had to pick up and launder the guy's skid-marked underwear. Yep, she left me for a guy who was barely toilet-trained. She said she was in denial that she couldn't have thrown me away for a guy who was no good, so she doubled down by marrying him. Sarah was always very stubborn. He was apparently a good salesman and earned a lot in commissions, but he was really bad with money. They had a lot of fights about money and household chores, and finally she caught him cheating with a coworker. Oh, the irony. She left him with a wrecked credit score. She was pregnant with his kid at the time, so she got an AB0 ERT on, trying to avoid the filters. This is something no one in our families know about. She's been living with her parents and working at the same feed store her dad works at. She said she wanted to reconnect with me due to the fact that we were childhood friends and had been each other's best friends for 17 years, and she missed me. She started on about how much therapy she'd been through and that she is a completely different person now. She wants me to know how much she cares about me and that girl I was best friends with is still there and blah blah blah. I can't even write this manipulative shit out anymore. I guess I'm not a nice guy anymore. I didn't want to start any kind of beef with her family and mine, so I just told her that I had also changed since she dumped me. I told her that when I touch something and get burned, I don't touch it anymore. I told her it's great that she worked on herself, but some new guy, idiot, will have to benefit from that. When I look at her, all I see is her crying, telling me she's leaving me holding a proverbial knife with my blood all over it. In my mind, she's a person who says, "Honey, I love you, but I also love stabbing." No, thank you, ma'am. I told her that if we got together, the resentment would make me treat her like crap all the time. And she didn't want or deserve that. I told her good luck in her future endeavors, and I hope she keeps up with her changes, and that I had to leave to go to Iceland for Christmas. Yes, I was bragging. She was tearing up and trying not to let me see her cry, and I pretended not to notice. Dad was disappointed I caved to Mom and sister. He made it like I failed the test of manhood. I told my mom and sister not to expect any wedding bells or grandchildren nephews anytime soon. My brother called me a simp, and so I had to wrestle him. He got me in a headlock. The guy's getting too big, and I held back too much. I left for Iceland the next day, and I'm there until the new year. I'm headed to Budapest for a follow-up project. Sarah is not invited. Top comments. Commenter 1. Good for you not letting her come back into your life. Commenter 2. Your dad and brother are right. It's amazing the lack of empathy your mother and sister have towards you. They both suck. Story 7. Wibda for telling my wife to show me her phone after I got an email accusing her of cheating. I, M47, have a comfortable and fulfilling life. I have a job I truly enjoy, I live in a nice suburb, and am blessed with 3 wonderful children, M8, F6, F4, and a lovely wife, Emily, 45. I've always felt Emily and I were an ideal match. However, a recent email I received has deeply unsettled me and planted a seed of doubt in my mind. Emily lived in the UK between 2010 and 2015, during which time she pursued a PhD. Because she lived there so long, she developed many close friendships and has made it a point to return every couple of years to maintain those ties. This past August, she traveled to the UK for 3 weeks to attend the wedding of one of her close friends. After some consideration, we agreed that it would be best for me and the children to remain at home, as I could not take that much time away from work, and the children were unlikely to find much enjoyment in such an event. Emily departed, returned as expected, and life returned to normal for us. Last week I received an email on my work email address. It was supposedly from the wife of Emily's friend. I'll call him Jake, M44. According to this woman, she has a very strong reason to suspect that Jake and Emily engaged in an affair. She listed off her suspicions, noting Jake had picked Emily up from the airport, spent considerable time at her hotel, and how the two of them frequently went out to dinner alone. She even included pictures of my wife's earrings that she said she found in Jake's pockets when she was doing the laundry, and pictures of a lipstick stain on his shirt. The color is one I recognize as something Emily often wears. There is some other evidence she listed off. For the sake of conciseness, I will not include them here. All this was a lot to absorb, and for a while I thought it was some sort of joke, so I tried my best to ignore it, but it kept coming back into my mind. I remember that before her trip, my wife would talk to all her friends there. I don't know if this email is influencing my memory, but I think she probably spoke with Jake the most. Additionally, I know Emily never liked Jake's wife, though I can't say why. I've never pried into Emily's phone or social media accounts before, but I feel very tempted to now. However, I know I'd feel terrible if I looked and found nothing. Also, if I start acting suspicious, wouldn't she just delete everything out of fear of being found out? I am unsure of how to move forward and would welcome any guidance on handling this. The best I can currently come up with is asking to see her phone immediately after confronting her about it so as to not give her no time to delete anything, though part of me thinks this would upset her and potentially not even show anything. Wibda for telling my wife to show me her phone after I got an email accusing her of cheating? Edit. I forgot to include, my wife no longer has these earrings. She wasn't wearing them when she returned, and when I asked, she said she lost them. Ada has no consensus bot. OOP was NTA. Relevant. Comment? Commenter 1 info. The other evidence bears listing. Best to have all the facts as you understand them, concision aside. OOP. It isn't as solid as the other stuff she shared, which is why I decided to leave it out. But the other evidence is as follows. She said that every day Emily was there, Jake would either go see her or talk on the phone with her. She also said that whenever Jake was on the phone with Emily, he'd quickly hang up or leave the room if he noticed her. She mentioned they seemed to not even hide how much physical contact they'd have, as they'd always find an excuse to touch each other. They'd reminisce about old times a lot. She even said the way they would look at each other. Commenter 2. NTA, and show your wife the email from this person and ask the question. OP, I guess I will. Here's hoping it turns out to be nothing. Commenter 3. I would show her the email you got and ask to see the phone right then and there. Her reaction will be telling. I think it warrants asking to see her phone. However, I'm not yet sold on it definitely being an affair. The lipstick stain proves absolutely nothing. She could have found or taken the earrings from somewhere else. How certain are you that they are actually your wife's? And the rest you put in the comments are purely just her word. She might just be causing trouble. OOP. I am 100% certain those are my wife's earrings, or at least a replica. I got them for her 2 years ago on her birthday. She told me that she lost them while in the UK since I noticed she wasn't wearing them when she got back. Update #1. October 18th, 2024, 10 days later. A few hours after sharing my first post, I confronted Emily. She confirmed my fears. She claims she's in love with Jake and can't live a lie any longer. She still claims to love me and the kids, but says she can't stay with us any longer. According to her, she was waiting for a better time to tell me and the children. Apparently this has been going on since March, with Jake flying out here occasionally and Emily secretly meeting him. We're getting divorced. Emily is moving to the UK soon. She confirmed that in August, in addition to the wedding, she attended a job interview, and she's set to start around the new year. She's already applied for a British visa. She plans to live with Jake once she moves. As for custody, Emily is voluntarily surrendering her chance of full custody. She doesn't want to uproot the kids, so they'll stay here in Canada with me. There's a part of me that appreciates that decision, but there's also the part that is astonished at how easily she's walking away. She wants to pay child support, but I'd rather raise my children without her financial influence. That said, the court will likely insist on support, regardless of my feelings. Emily is also seeking structured visitation rights, which, given the circumstances, will likely be granted. Based on what I've been told, the court generally leans toward arrangements that allow both parents to maintain relationships with the children, even when one is relocating to a different country. The lawyers are still working out the details, but it seems she'll have visitation during school breaks and holidays, with the possibility of virtual calls in between. I've been keeping things as amicable as possible, and the more cooperative I am, the more Emily seems to agree with my demands. We are also discussing the future of our home. Emily has expressed a desire to sell the property and divide the proceeds. While I am reluctant to part with the family home, it is unlikely I have much of a choice since it was bought during our marriage. For now, our lawyers are still working through the details, and no final decisions have been made. Given the situation, it could be a good while before we reach a resolution. In the meantime, I've been advised not to make any major financial moves. As much as I want to stay here with the children, I know selling is most likely inevitable. As of this writing, Emily is in an Airbnb, and Jake has flown here to stay with her. They plan on traveling to the UK at some point in the near future. My lawyer tells me that adultery isn't grounds for special treatment when it comes to custody or property division. Therefore, it won't influence how assets are divided unless marital funds are directly involved. Emily likely used money from her personal account. Unless it can be proven she used our joint finances to fund the affair, it's unlikely this will make any difference in court. I have been in regular communication with Jake's soon-to-be ex-wife Eleanor, primarily through email, and more recently we've spoken over the phone a few times. Eleanor apologized, saying she felt guilty for telling me about the affair and worried that if she hadn't, maybe my marriage could have been salvaged. I reassured her that for me the gravity of the situation made divorce inevitable, and I'd rather not remain in the dark about something of this significance. She even sent me messages and other evidence of their relationship. But since Emily is openly admitting to the affair, it doesn't really matter in the context of the law. Eleanor has also told me a lot about Jake. Apparently this is the third time he's cheated on her, and she's had enough. There's no chance of reconciliation this time, she says, and he doesn't seem interested in trying. She mentioned that Jake has zero desire to raise children who are not biologically his, which explains why Emily's not fighting for custody. Eleanor's divorce will most likely be much longer and more drawn out than mine, given that both her and Jake want full custody of their children and can't agree on several other issues. I haven't had much time to process everything. These past 2 weeks have felt like a blur in every way. But one thing I can say with certainty is that I have nothing left for Emily. Not because she betrayed our marriage, but because of how easily she's walking away from our children. I never thought I could hate someone I once loved so much. It's a strange feeling. The hardest part in all of this is the children. My 2 youngest daughters have started asking why their mother isn't around as much anymore, and it's been very difficult trying to communicate with them about the nature of the situation. My eldest seems to understand a little more, and as a result, he has become quiet and withdrawn. I'm fortunate to have a family that has been incredibly supportive so far. My children have received numerous thoughtful letters from some of their cousins, which I've been reading to them each night. All my siblings have also sent gifts for the kids, and one of my brothers, along with his wife, drove up to visit over the past weekend. My sister-in-law even prepared plenty of food, some of which is still in the freezer. They also kept the children entertained while I met with my lawyer. My other siblings have also offered to come by and look after the kids whenever I need them. Beyond that, my parents have been calling daily to check in on us, and my 78-year-old mother has already made plans to stay with us for 2 weeks in November to help around the house. The collective effort of my family has made this experience much more bearable, and I'm deeply grateful for all their support. To everyone who encouraged me to speak with Emily after my last post, I'm grateful. I was tempted to ignore Eleanor's message, but it kept gnawing at me. Your advice gave me the courage to act. Emily has shown herself to be a liar, and I have no doubt that her idea of a better time was simply when it would cause the least inconvenience for her and Jake. Top comments. Commenter 1. So sorry for the outcome here, OP. I had not expected her to just drop the marriage and take off with Jake, a known cheater. Can't imagine that relationship will last long. And your wife walking away from her kids to be with him is beyond the pale. Continue to listen to your lawyers, be amicable to get the best settlement, and take care of your kids. Good you have a supporting family. Thanks for the update. I wish you and your kids well. Commenter 2. Take her support payments and put it into accounts for the kids. Keep investing it for them and give it to them when they are 30. Hopefully they will be in a good place where the money will really help them. Commenter 3. She's so pathetic, he says, I don't want your kids, but I'll fight for mine, and she bends over and agrees to abandon them. Watch her life implode when he eventually cheats on her. She'll come running back claiming she missed you and the kids. Speak to your lawyer to get her to sign over full parental control and loose parental responsibility, as she'll use them as blackmail to worm her way back in. As soon as lawyer says it's time, cut all remaining financial ties with her. NTA. Update #2, November 13th, 2024, almost 1 month later. Think of this less as an update and more as a chance to vent a few things now that I've had more time to process my situation. I know that Emily often traveled back and forth to the UK during our marriage. She claims her affair with Jake only began in March 2024, but I'm convinced she's lying. It's almost certain that this has been going on for years. Given how much she had already prepared by the time I confronted her, it's become clear to me and everyone else that she had been planning this for some time. In fact, within a few short days of our confrontation, she already had certain legal documents prepared. Additionally, Jake arriving in Canada shortly after I confronted Emily made it clear that they had planned for her to tell me roughly around this date in advance. It makes sense that Emily was well prepared and was just waiting for things to be better lined up for herself. After all, she'd long since applied for her visa, secured a job, secretly appraised her car, our family car, though it was under her name, and sent personal items with Jake to the UK during his secret visits, all right under my oblivious nose. I have a feeling I'm only scratching the surface and have no real idea of how far this actually goes, not that Emily would ever tell me its depth. In addition to all of this, Emily had already been in touch with her lawyer long before I confronted her. Taking all this into account, it's hard not to wonder if she secured her job even earlier than she let on, perhaps to make her actions seem less calculated. 2 of Emily's friends have since reached out to express shock and disappointment by her actions. One of them, Janet, mentioned that according to another friend, Emily had been consulting her divorce lawyer as far back as late August or early September, and this other friend also confirmed my suspicion that Emily had been sending some of her belongings to the UK during Jake's visits. I've been losing sleep, replaying the past few months in my mind, maybe driving myself a little crazy, but certain things stand out. For example, when Emily went to the UK in August for the wedding, she was carrying 3 fully loaded suitcases. She told me that they were filled with presents for her friends, and I didn't question it, even though it seemed a bit excessive at the time. When I picked her up from the airport after her trip, I noticed the bags were suspiciously light. I can assume that in addition to the job interview she claimed to attend, she transported a bunch of her personal items to the UK, which would explain why since her return, she seemed to have been wearing a smaller selection of her clothing. Despite this, I was somehow blindsided, and I completely blame myself. Looking back, I can see there were signs I ignored, and I guess I didn't think Emily was capable of this sort of thing. A part of me wonders if this outcome could have been avoided entirely had I been more assertive and vigilant in the past. The worst part of all is that my children are now dealing with the consequences of my ignorance and stupidity. While I twiddled my thumbs, my wife had essentially started a new life. Most people in my life now know about my separation from Emily. I've stopped wearing my wedding band, and I've explained the situation to friends and colleagues who noticed its absence. One of my close friends, and many others who reached out privately on Reddit, have suggested I get DNA tests for the children, given Emily's travel patterns and tendency to lie. While I understand where they are coming from, this is something I'll never do. I'd never assign my children to another man. Nothing will change that. Life without Emily has thus far been difficult. Mornings have become a hectic rush. Between getting the kids ready and getting myself out the door, I'm barely on time for work for nearly half the week. It's frankly exhausting trying to keep up with all the extra parenting duties I have to perform throughout the day. Our current home has a large driveway, so on top of everything else, I'm already dreading the task of shoveling it once the snow starts falling. The kids are feeling the strain as well. They don't particularly like the food I prepare most days, and they hate how I'm always busy. It's incredibly frustrating to know that while we're here struggling, Emily recently departed for a relaxing vacation through Europe with Jake. Communication between us has dwindled, and I only learned of these developments recently. I have no idea if she plans to return to Canada after her vacation or settle directly into what will likely be a very comfortable life in the UK. On a more positive note, I was able to get the kids to see their doctor recently. She gave me a bunch of useful resources and advice. She placed an emphasis on how time and clear communication were the most important factors for their adjustment. While I'm optimistic, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried. It's still early, I know, but they remain quite upset about the entire ordeal and act out regularly as a result. It is abundantly clear that they're having a hard time adjusting to our new reality. Throughout all of this, my family has been a tremendous support. My mother arrived as promised early last week, and things have already become significantly easier. The kids enjoy her cooking and spending time with her. Her presence has also freed me to handle other tasks. Whenever the divorce is finalized, I plan to designate my eldest brother and sister-in-law as legal guardians for the children. They live relatively nearby and have already agreed to take on that role if needed, which brings me some peace of mind. However, I highly doubt this will be any time soon given my much busier schedule, and Emily dragging her feet before traveling. The whole process has slowed to a snail's pace. One of the hardest aspects of all this has been making decisions about our family home. After considerable thought and speaking it over many times with my family, I'm leaning toward selling at this stage. Emily has already offered me a bit more than half of the proceeds since she sold our SUV right before leaving the country. My lawyer has noted that selling the SUV before we finalized anything was premature on her part, considering I contributed significantly, 40%, to the purchase. He thinks I have strong grounds to seek reimbursement elsewhere in our asset division, which aligns with Emily offering more of the house. Getting more than half seems fair, given that I contributed about 65–70% of the down payment and monthly mortgage payments. As I mentioned above, the family SUV was registered in only her name. However, I covered about 40% of its cost, so it's frustrating she sold it unilaterally. As I've learned over the past several weeks, my sedan is too snug for the kids and inconvenient for my mother to duck in and out of when she runs errands. Therefore, I'll need to trade it for something larger. In return, Emily has graciously insisted I keep the furniture and appliances, least she can do, I suppose. As much as part of me would like to stay in our current home, it's probably better for us to move. Part of me hopes this will help us avoid future interference from Emily, though in reality, she's just as likely to interfere no matter where we are. I've been looking at townhouses closer to my place of work, which would cut down my commute and place us near a well-rated school. However, my sisters brought up that moving the kids now would mean changing schools and losing their friends, which would be yet another big change for them. An alternative option is that we move to a smaller, more manageable house close to our current one. This would reduce my workload and allow the kids to stay at the same school. Regardless of which option we choose, the idea of a new home without Emily's memory is appealing. Our current home's location is yet another example of how foolish and short-sighted I've been. Its location was much more convenient for Emily's commute compared to my own. It worked out for a time as the children's school was close to Emily's work in case they needed her during the day, but now all of this is useless as my place of work is rather far. I've heard nothing from Emily's family, and frankly I have no interest in reaching out. As for Emily's future with Jake, I don't wish her relationship to fail. The longer her life is stable, the less likely she'll disrupt ours. But I take solace in knowing she remains unaware of Jake's infidelity history. I don't feel any moral obligation to warn her about Jake's character, and Eleanor feels the same way. I've made a point to check in on Eleanor regularly. She doesn't have the same family support I do. Her immediate family is charmed by Jake's ample wealth and believes that she should do whatever it takes to keep him, even though it is clear that neither he nor Eleanor wants reconciliation. Relevant. Comment? Commenter 1. Her friend was shocked and disappointed by her behavior? How? She knew that Emily was already seeing a divorce attorney, right? And also knew that things were being sent to the UK? OOP. The two friends who approached me found out from a third friend about my wife seeing a divorce attorney around late August, early September. This third friend only told the two ladies who came to me she knew all of this after Emily had already moved out of the house. This third friend has not spoken with me directly. Commenter 2. I'm so sorry, man. Nobody deserves that pain. I've been carrying it around with me for 15 years. I hope you're luckier than I am and meet someone new. Cheaters are the lowest of the low. She's abandoning her own kids for his. Not a soul to be had. OP. It is what it is, I suppose. Cheating is one thing, but I'm still stunned she is walking out on our children like this. I would have never imagined she could do something like this. OOP gives some details if Emily decides to come back and want to reinstate her parental rights to her children, what the outcomes would be like for Emily. OOP. Given that Emily intends to pay child support and seeks visitation rights, should she return in a few years and request access to the children, it's likely she would be granted some access. However, as the primary caretaker, I would retain full custody. There is, of course, the possibility that she may develop a significant criminal record during her time abroad. Should that happen, it would likely bar her from any access to the children. Though I admit, I might be too optimistic in hoping for such an outcome. The opinions of the kids are also taken into consideration, so I hope if it comes down to that, they clearly state that they prefer staying with me. Of course, all of this is just a rough outline of what I think would happen. Various facts can cause different outcomes. Here's hoping my wife stays away so we don't have to go down that road. OOP's reaction on Emily's decision to walk away from their own children and how Emily is willing to be involved with Jake's children. OOP. Yes, I'm still in shock at how easily she can just walk away. As one of my sisters-in-law put it, she's off on her broomstick to fulfill her dreams of being some poor children's wicked stepmother. A small consolation is that Eleanor's children, being a bit older than mine, 11 to 14, will likely do their utmost to make Emily's life difficult. New update. Addressing questions and concerns. December 13th, 2024, 1 month later. Hello. The main purpose of this post is to clarify a few things that have come up in my personal messages. I appreciate the concern and will use this opportunity to address many of these points at once. First, I'm still very much adjusting. I've accepted the situation, though I still feel bitter about it now and then. I'm adapting, and while some days are worse than others, I'm managing. All in all, my situation doesn't feel as overwhelming anymore. The kids are still adjusting. They're resilient, but they've been dealing with a lot. I'm considering enrolling them in a program designed to support children of divorced parents. I just need to find the time to properly research it once my work calms down a bit. On the topic of household dynamics, some people who have been messaging me seem to think that Emily was overburdened with chores and that somehow justified her decisions. To remove any misunderstandings before everything fell apart, the split on household chores hovered around 60/40ths, with her handling the larger portion. In contrast, living expenses were covered roughly 75% by me and 25% by her. Not to mention, Emily took far more solo vacations than I did, and I guess we all now know how those went. Also, yes, I know how to cook. I've always been a health-conscious person, which meant the kids often preferred the way Emily prepared meals. Despite the many private messages suggesting otherwise, I still have no intention of DNA testing my children. Emily has settled into an apartment owned by Jake. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but apparently, Jake owns an apartment in the city to avoid commuting during the week. According to Eleanor, he'd stay there and go back to his house on weekends to be with her and the children. Since his most recent affair has come to light, he's been living there full-time and only comes to the house to see his children. Eleanor also mentioned the apartment is the same place where he carried out his previous affairs, which is fitting, I guess. In other news, I finally replaced my sedan with a larger car. I spent much more than I probably should have, but it's been one of the few things bringing me joy lately. Lastly, many people have been messaging me to suggest that I have some sort of moral obligation to warn Emily about Jake's previous infidelity and the chance he may cheat on her. I don't think this is my responsibility. Maybe Emily already knows and just doesn't care. Relevant top comments. Commenter 1, glad you got the car sorted. Get those kids settled for Christmas. Make it a big one, a no work phone/email one. Also get all your family involved. If you want to be petty, allocate a time to your ex to call the kids on Christmas Day that takes absolutely no account of the time difference. You're doing well, mate. Handling it like a pro. Get this locked down tight so you can heal and start to live your life. Burn her with stories of a family life well lived. At least we now know what AP was trading his kids for. Bet he wants to stop his ex from making him sell the flat and access to his family wealth. OOP, thanks for the suggestions. We have plans to spend time with family during the holidays, and I'm sure the kids will appreciate it. Commenter 2. You sound smart enough to already know this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Please don't take her back when their relationship ends. I can already hear her. I didn't know what I had till it was gone. We can have an open phone policy, which is a dumb one because burners are dirt cheap. I've never loved anyone as much as I loved you. We can go to counseling. Going off of your posts, you're a damn good dad and you deserve the best for yourself and the kids. OP. Thanks for the advice. I have no intention of getting involved with her beyond co-parenting. I doubt she'd want to come back either, considering how much she seems to be enjoying her new life. Commenter 3. Thanks for the update. I feel it is always necessary to tell the innocent betrayed spouse that their mate is cheating. In this case, Emily already knows Jake is a liar and a cheater because of his infidelity with her. It's not necessary to tell her anything. It's expected that he will cheat again. He's a serial cheater. Not your problem. It's her problem for trying to enter into a legitimate relationship with a cheater. She'll find out soon enough. Don't say a word. Commenter 4. Keep your head up and find joy wherever you can. Do what you need to build yourself and the littles up, and you all will be better prepared in case Emily comes out of the fog and tries to become your problem. Story 8. My mother-in-law cut my hair in my sleep because she thought I cheated on my husband. So I'm still processing this, but I need to get it off my chest. Last night I woke up and realized someone had butchered my hair. One side is a jagged pixie cut, and the other side hangs awkwardly past my shoulder. At first I thought I was losing my mind. Maybe I sleepwalked or something, but no. I confronted my husband, Tim, because he's been acting weird lately, but he denied it. Then he drops this bombshell. My mom. She might have done it. Apparently my MIL, let's call her Diane, is convinced I've been cheating on Tim. Why? Because last week she saw me having lunch with a coworker. For the record, the coworker, Kyle, is gay and we were literally talking about work. But Diane decided I must be having an affair, and instead of, talking to me or Tim, she broke into our house in the middle of the night with scissors and went full Edward Scissorhands on my hair. This morning, I confronted her. At first, she played innocent, but when I pressed her, she literally said, "Well, maybe now you'll think twice before humiliating my son." I was fuming. I told her Kyle isn't even into women, but she just rolled her eyes and said something like, "That's what they all say." I didn't even know how to respond to that level of delusion. Tim is horrified and apologetic, but I'm struggling here. This woman violated my personal space, destroyed my hair, and acted like she was in the right. I want to go no contact with her, but Tim is stuck between me and his mom, and I feel like this is going to be a huge blow-up in our marriage. Any advice, because I'm honestly at a loss here. TLDR. My mill cut my hair in my sleep because she thinks I'm cheating on my husband. I'm not. Now I don't know how to handle her or my marriage. Edit. My husband and I will be going to my MIL tomorrow to talk to her about the situation again. Hopefully everyone will be calmed down by then and I won't have to threaten legal action. Thank you for all the support and suggestions. I will keep them at mind. Relevant comments. Zan 3782. Why was his first thought, maybe my mom did it? Like, why would a normal person's mind go there? Did he let her in? I'm sorry, but if my spouse woke up with their hair butchered, none of my thoughts would be that it could be my mom, unless I knew, or she had done that before to someone else I was with. There is definitely more to that story. And if he isn't immediately on your side, sounds like you have a husband problem along with a MIL problem. Khaki value. Why was his first thought, maybe my mom did it? Because he knew his mom had seen her at lunch. She said, "I confronted my husband, Tim, because he's been acting weird lately," but he denied it. Then he drops this bombshell. My mom, she might have done it. So my hypothesis goes like this. Tim, when told this info by his mother, either 1. Believed his mom and doesn't bring it up with OP the way his mom wants, but behaves weird around her and keeps silent at home, while probably still discussing this situation with his mom, leading to MIL escalating. Or 2. He does not believe his mom because he trusts his wife, but to protect his mother because how much do you want to bet it's not the first time she's crossed OP's boundaries, while Tim just and doesn't tell her this new thing Mill is a big boiling pot of oil over. In either case, it boils down to you nailing it. Sounds like you have a husband problem along with a MIL problem. OK_win_6261. This is assault. Please report her. Terrifying. Oop! You're right. It does feel like a form of assault, and I've been seriously considering reporting her. It's not just about the hair. It's the violation of my personal space and the sense of safety in my own home. I'm still weighing the pros and cons of escalating things legally, but comments like yours are helping me see how serious this is. Thank you for validating how terrifying it really was. Aldeity scrolling. It's pretty much set in stone that if she doesn't face consequences for this literal crime, she will continue to act in such ways towards you unquestioned. BTW, your husband is a sack of shit. What a useless dude. With spouse like that, who needs enemies? D-Town Bronx? It feels like a form of assault because it is assault. There's no defense of what she did, and you should be pressing charges regardless of husband's opinion. Update. My mother-in-law cut my hair in my sleep because she thought I cheated on my husband. And now I found out my husband helped her. Same post, the next morning about 12 hours later. After the conversation we had with Diane this morning, I noticed my husband, Tim, was acting weird. At first I thought it was just guilt about standing up to his mom, but it felt like more than that. He's been avoiding eye contact and getting defensive when I bring up what happened. Earlier, I couldn't take it anymore, so I sat him down and told him he needed to be 100% honest with me about everything. That's when he dropped the bombshell. Apparently, Diane didn't come up with the haircut idea on her own. Tim admitted that he knew about it ahead of time and even helped her. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. He said he truly thought I was cheating on him with Kyle, my gay co-worker, because Diane had convinced him that there was too much evidence to ignore. When she suggested cutting my hair as some kind of weird punishment, he didn't stop her. In fact, he let her into our house that night while I was sleeping. Tim said he didn't want to confront me directly because he wasn't ready for the truth. So instead, he let his mother do this insane thing to me, thinking it would force me to come clean. Afterward, when I didn't admit to cheating, he started to realize he might have been wrong, but by then, he didn't know how to tell me what he'd done. He kept saying, "I'm so sorry, I was just confused." But I honestly don't know how to process this. This wasn't just Diane acting like a lunatic. This was both of them. And my own husband betrayed me in one of the most humiliating ways possible. I packed a bag and am staying with a friend tonight, and while I figure out what to do, I don't know if I can ever trust Tim again after this. It's not just the haircut. It's the fact that he didn't talk to me, believed the worst about me without any proof, and actively participated in something so cruel and violating. As for Diane, she's officially dead to me. I've already told Tim that I don't want her in my life ever again, regardless of what happens between us. Right now, I'm torn. Part of me wants to file a police report on both of them for what they did, but I'm scared of how messy it will get. Another part of me just wants to cut ties and move on, but that feels like letting them off too easy. I don't know what my next step is, but I do know this. I deserve better than this. Thank you to everyone who has supported me through this. Your comments and advice have meant the world, and I'm truly grateful for the kindness and understanding. It's helping me find the strength to figure out what comes next. Edit #2. To everyone saying this is fake. I don't know how to make you believe me, and honestly, I shouldn't have to. I'm sitting here crying in my friend's guest room, completely broken, trying to make sense of how my life has fallen apart in the span of 24 hours. My husband, the person I thought I could trust the most, betrayed me in the most humiliating way possible. His mother violated me in my sleep, and now strangers are telling me my pain isn't real. I wish with everything in me that this wasn't real. I wish I wasn't sitting here trying to figure out how to rebuild my life, how to ever trust someone again, or how to even face the people around me after this. I've barely eaten, have been shaking all day, and I feel like my world is crumbling beneath me. I turned to Reddit because I didn't know where else to go. I needed advice, a sense of support, something to help me hold myself together. But these accusations, they're just making me feel even more alone. If you can't believe me, fine, but please don't make this harder than it already is. I wouldn't wish this pain on anyone. Update #2, I think I'm going to divorce him, and I may file a police report. Same post the next evening, about 24 hours later. After everything that's happened, I've been thinking a lot about my next steps, and I've come to a heartbreaking but necessary conclusion. I don't think there's any coming back from this. I trusted Tim with my heart, my safety, my life, and he betrayed me in ways I never thought possible. I can't imagine a future where I feel safe with him, where I can trust him, or where I don't carry the weight of this violation every day. I'm strongly considering filing for divorce. The thought of staying with him feels unbearable, but at the same time I can't stop worrying about the messiness of it all. I just want to cut ties completely, to walk away and rebuild my life without him or his mother dragging me down any further. As for filing a police report, I'm leaning toward it, but I'm scared of what it might bring. I know what they did was a crime. My own husband let his mother into our home to assault me in my sleep. But the thought of dealing with legal battles, or even just having to relive this again and again in statements, is exhausting. Part of me wants to hold them accountable, but another part just wants to run far away and never look back. Right now I'm taking it one step at a time. I've been talking to friends, trying to find some clarity in all this chaos. It's terrifying and painful, but I know one thing for sure. I deserve so much better than this. Thank you to everyone who has shown me kindness and support. It means the world to me right now. Update #3. I've contacted a lawyer and decided to press charges. Same post 2 days later. Hi everyone! I just wanted to give an update after everything that's happened. After spending the last couple of days trying to process everything, I finally made some concrete decisions. First, I contacted a divorce lawyer. I explained the entire situation, including what my husband admitted to and how his mother violated my trust and personal safety. The lawyer was very supportive and walked me through the process of filing for divorce. While it feels daunting, I know this is the best decision for me. I can't see a future where I could ever trust my husband again after what he allowed to happen. Second, I decided to press charges against my mother-in-law. I've filed a police report for assault, and I've documented everything. Photos of my hair, text messages, and the timeline of events. While I'm still nervous about how messy this could get, I refuse to let her get away with what she did. What she did wasn't just humiliating. It was an act of violence, and she needs to be held accountable for it. As for my husband, I've made it clear that I'm done. I've moved out and will not be returning. I've blocked his mother entirely and am limiting any communication with him to legal matters only. I'm still scared, hurt, and figuring things out, but I feel a little more empowered now that I've taken these steps. Thank you to everyone who has offered me advice, support, and encouragement. It's helped me more than you know. This is still far from over, but I'm determined to move forward and build a better future for myself. I'll keep you updated as things progress. Can this conversation with my husband be used for a police report and divorce? December 6th, 2024. I'm going through an incredibly traumatic situation, and I don't know what my legal options are. My mother-in-law entered my home in the middle of the night with my husband's knowledge and cut my hair while I was sleeping. She did this because she believed I was cheating. I wasn't. I confronted my husband, and while he didn't outright admit to planning this, he essentially confessed to knowing what his mom intended to do and letting her into our house that night. I'm planning to leave him, and am seriously considering filing both a police report for assault on my MIL and a report against my husband for enabling her. 1. Would this conversation be enough to support filing a police report for what happened? 2. Could it help me in a divorce if I decide to pursue one? 3. Is it worth consulting a lawyer even if I'm not 100% sure about filing a report yet? I've documented everything. Photos of my hair, text messages with my husband, and written down the timeline of events. I just don't know if this conversation would actually hold up as evidence since he doesn't outright admit to anything but heavily implies it. Any advice is appreciated. I'm feeling lost, scared, and overwhelmed right now. Editor's note. Included in the post are 2 screenshots of text messages between OOP and her husband. I have transcribed the conversation below. OOP redacted. I need you to be honest with me. Did you know what redacted was going to do? Husband. I didn't think it would go this far. OOP, that is not an answer. Did you know she was planning to cut my hair? Husband. She was upset, okay? She kept saying you needed to learn a lesson, but I didn't think she would actually do it. OOP. Learn a lesson. Are you hearing yourself right now? She told you what she was going to do and you still let her in? Husband. I thought maybe she'd cool down after talking to you. OP. She told you she wanted to teach me about lesson by cutting my hair, and you thought it would be fine. Redacted, what is wrong with you? Husband. I didn't know how to handle it, okay? She was so worked up, I didn't want to make things worse. OP. Worse? How could it possibly get worse? You knew redacted. You knew she was going to do it, and you let her. Husband. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. OP. But it did happen. And now I'm sitting here humiliated, betrayed, and wondering how I'm supposed to ever trust you again. Husband, I'm sorry, I really am. OP. Sorry doesn't fix this. OP. Sorry doesn't make me feel safe in my own home anymore. I don't know who you are anymore. OP. I need space to figure this out. Husband. Redacted, please, just come home and we can talk about this. OP. No, you made your choice and now I have to make mine. Relevant, come on. Independent Mess 942. File the report against your MIL as soon as you can. This conversation sounds like it would help the case very much. I am so sorry this happened to you. Valkyrie's Ride 1. And get restraining orders against both of them. Don't be alone with either of them. If they both acted this insane about suspected infidelity, there is no telling what they will do when you tell your husband that you are getting divorced. Motofail Queen. I saw your initial post and I'm very glad you're filing a report. I don't think it will be worth your while trying to file a report against you, husband. However, these texts will be great for your assault report on your MIL. Get a family lawyer now for the divorce. The state will be pursuing your MIL for the assault. If you want, you could pursue a financial case against you, MIL for your hair, personal injury, distress, don't know what else, but a personal injury lawyer may be able to tell you if you have a case and what you could expect. Your husband is too tied up in his mother's apron strings. Your MIL is crazy and needs to be shown consequences. Call _me_echelon. And keep all the receipts for any work you have done on your hair, including the cost of the stylist, extensions, coloring, etc., and the time it takes. I'm a guy, so I don't know what all will go into trying to repair the damage, but I'm certain it won't be fast and inexpensive, and you should be reimbursed for those losses. Wing in Vegas. Former police officer. You definitely want to file an assault report against MIL. You could also push for the inclusion of conspiracy against her and husband, since he knew about her plans beforehand, and then facilitated the assault by letting her into the house, which allowed her to commit the assault. In most states in the U.S., you do not need grounds for a divorce, and there are standards for the allocation of marital and separate assets. You need to talk to a local divorce attorney to review what you are entitled to if you do pursue a divorce. Many states also have court-ordered legal separation rules that can designate who is responsible for what while you are separated, regardless of if a divorce happens or not. Tattles 2020. Is there a possibility you were drugged? I wouldn't be able to sleep through a haircut. Constant Candidate 278. I've painted someone's nails while sleeping. Deaf possible if they are a deep enough sleeper. Live Music is best. Consult a high-quality, non-billboard personal injury attorney as well as a divorce lawyer. Tell him or her that you want to talk about the crazy woman's assault. Ask about the laws in your state for intentional infliction of emotional distress, as well as other torts your lawyer should be familiar with. Your soon-to-be ex-husband's text is proof that the crazy woman, certainly no lady, had specific intention to harm you. The premeditated and planned nature of her assault should drive punitive damages. She is unlikely to have insurance because it never covers intentional injury. But she should have non-exempt assets, meaning assets that you could seize to collect a judgment by the time she is old enough to be a mother-in-law. Ask any lawyer you hire about their experience in and willingness to collect a judgment by going after personal assets, like those poor election workers in Georgia who Trump-addled Rudy Giuliani defamed. The mother and daughter Rudy victimized ended up with his Mercedes and fancy NY condo. Ruin this awful woman's life even if you can't collect big bucks. We have to make public examples of people like her and Rudy if we are going to restore some decency in a country where belligerence and craziness have been normalized. Make her pay.